Fine, I'll do the video today. So, Marc Bergevin. Oh, great. That means the TV's on there. Here. I'll turn it so the TV doesn't show up. Here. Now it's just you and me discussing hockey. And Montreal. Why? Well, okay. I did the Jim Benning video because Benning has been much maligned. And I'm doing this video because, man, Bergevin's just getting raked over the coals right now by Montreal fans and by certain members of the media. So I want to go through this and look at this and say, well, has he done really a really poor job? The elephant in the room is that Radulov left. Apparently the money that he offered Radulov was the same amount of money that he ended up getting from Dallas. He didn't want to give the term that Dallas gave Radulov. I do think Dallas overpaid Radulov. I do. He also was of the mind that he wanted to bring Markov back, but he didn't want to give the term that Markov got by not coming back to the NHL. Markov is being missed by Montreal right now. Absolutely. Losing Markov is big. Especially in light of the fact that Sergachev was supposed to be coming in, and now he's been traded out for Drouin. This is kind of a perfect storm for Bergevin. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong this year. Meaning it's a Murphy's Law year for Bergevin. And Carey Price not playing like Carey Price doesn't help. But the fact that the entire team from top to bottom, minus Drouin, who Jonathan Drouin has come in and played well. But outside of him, it's really been kind of a dog's breakfast. Victor Mete earns a spot on the team. He's been playing well. And he was drafted by Bergevin. So you have to give Bergevin some credit. So I'm just throwing that out there first. Let's get into the draft. I'm just going to look at these first-round draft picks he made, and we're going to decide whether he made the right call. And it's tough because most GMs will make mistakes. Almost every GM makes a mistake at the draft table. Galchenyuk was his first draft pick in 2012. Drafted ahead of Hampus Lindholm. Drafted ahead of Trouba, Forsberg, Cody Ceci. Ceci's not in the same stratosphere as a Galchenyuk. And Griffin Reinhart was drafted right after Galchenyuk. So it could have been worse, Montreal. But Morgan Rielly at 5 for Toronto, he would help Montreal quite a bit right now because he's got that mobility and that puck handling ability that they need on the blue line. So I'll give him a pass because Galchenyuk did score 30 a couple years ago, but it's been mismanaged since then, and I don't know if it's Galchenyuk or if it's the team. And of course, I also should mention during this video that apparently Claude Julien's agent, or not Claude Julien is being accused by an agent who's not even Galchenyuk's agent that he doesn't like Russians, and that's why the Russians are gone. They tried to re-sign Radulov. They tried to re-sign Markov. And Galchenyuk was born in the States. So the fact that he used Galchenyuk as, hey, see, it's another example of Julien not working with Russians. No. I think the smoking gun may be Koklachev in Boston, but I really don't think Koklachev was going to be a top forward in Boston. I know I'm in the minority. I know there's a lot of Bruins fans that were sold on him, but I don't blame Claude Julien for that. Let's get back to Bergevin. Other notable selections, there's nothing Montreal related there, but I'll get into more of the drafting in a second, and then we'll get into the trading. So Montreal in his second year, they didn't draft till 25, and they draft Michael McCarron right ahead of Shea Theodore. Now, yes, ideally if they had Rielly and Theodore on that blue line, Montreal's problems are not on the blue line. Even if they trade out Subban for Weber, with Theodore and Rielly, their blue line is just fine. So you could get mad at them, but here's the thing. Once you get down into the 20-25 range, and 24 was Henderson Carrick for Vancouver, you're hit and miss. 27 in that draft is Marco Dano for Columbus, then Morgan Klimchuk for Calgary, then Jason Dickinson for Dallas, and then Hartman was the last pick of the first round by Chicago. So it is almost impossible. So I'll give him a pass on that one too, because it's almost impossible to really figure out who's where. And then he drafted Sven Andrighetto at 86 that year. So that's not bad. That's not bad. 2014, Montreal again is near the top of the league. So he drafts Nikita Sherbak, right ahead of Nikolai Goldobin, who's been traded, Josh Hosang, who's struggling to learn the game at an NHL level, Adrian Kempe. That hurts, because Kempe kind of played a role in LA beating Montreal last night. And then John Quenneville at 30. So that's your first round. And then in the second round, Montreal's pick was... I don't see Montreal having a second pick. Maybe 26, 50... I guess they didn't have one. Don't see them here. Well, that hurts when you see when teams trade away second rounders like they're nothing. I always kind of scratch my head at that. 2015. Montreal drafted Noah Juleson at 26th overall. If not for an injury, Juleson probably starts the season in Montreal. Interestingly, if Juleson started the year in Montreal, odds are Matei doesn't make the team. I would imagine it would have been one or the other. Matei now has earned his spot and he's staying. And then second rounded, again, I don't see Montreal listed. So he likes to give up second round draft picks. And then 2016, Montreal drafts ninth and they get Michael Sergachev. So see, Sergachev and Andrighetto, good draft picks. There's a problem though. And we'll get into that. Montreal fans, everybody knows exactly where I'm going with that. And that was their only first round draft pick. And then second round, well, let's go take a look. And then this year, they drafted Poling first round, and he does project to be an NHLer, but not yet. Let's see, Montreal. Here we go. Let's take a look at the rest of his draft picks. So after Galchenyuk, he drafted Kohlberg in the second round, then Dalton Thrower, Tim Bozon, Brady Vale, Hudon, drafted 122nd. He's on the team. He's not putting up tremendous points or anything, but he's on the team. And then Eric Nystrom. 2013 is McCarron, then Jacob De La Rose in the second round. He's on the team right now. Fucali, I don't know if Fucali's ever going to be a top goaltender. Laakkonen in the second round. Laakkonen's kind of been a win for him, although Laakkonen's totals haven't been great this year either. Connor Crisp, Sven Andrighetto, Martin Riwe, Jeremy Gregoire. 2014, Sherbet, Lernout, Koberstein, Audette, and of course, I'm pulling for Audette to make the NHL. Hockey and Evans. And with the name Hayden Hockey, he has to make it, right? His name's Hockey. He has to. Hawkey. That's the best last name ever in the history of hockey, because hockey knows how to hockey. Of course he does. He's Hockey. And then nobody's made the NHL yet from the 2015 draft. 2016, Will Bitton was the 70th pick. Matei was 100th. So that's a win, and you have to give Bergevin those. When Bergevin finds somebody at 100 and beyond, you have to say, you know what, he did a good job there. Casey Stom, Michael Perzetta, Arvid Henriksen, and then this past draft, it's just too early to say anything about it. So drafting, I'll give him a C+. C+ for drafting. Trades. His first trade, January 14th, 2013. The Panthers take Brandon Nash. Jason DeSantis goes to Montreal. That's not much for not much. That's just farmhands exchanging teams. Montreal acquires Tokarski for Desjardins. Of course, Tokarski played well after he went to Montreal. And so that's a win. Montreal acquires Michael Ryder in a third rounder for Eric Cole. Really? Dallas gave up a draft pick with Ryder to get Cole? Oh, Dallas. Davis Jaworski then was grabbed from LA for a 5th round pick. So there's no losses there. None. Those first 4 drafts. Or first 4 trades. Christian Thomas picked up by Montreal for Danny Cristo. That's a saw-off. Montreal took George Peros on July 5th of 2013 from Florida Panthers for Philip Lefebvre and a 7th round pick. That's a saw-off. The Canucks took Rafael Diaz from Montreal for Dale Weiss. That's a win for Montreal. To this day, that's a trade I look at and say, oh, God, no. Just no. Montreal acquires Robert Chernick, February 6, 2014, for Steve Quayler, who went to the Kings. Yeah, I don't know either. Mike Weaver was picked up from Florida on March 4th of that year for a 5th rounder. Weaver played well in Montreal. He did. March 5th, 2014, Thomas Vanek in a conditional 5th for Sebastian Kohlberg in a conditional 2nd from New York. Now, Vanek gets talked about a lot in derogatory terms in terms of his rental status, but that was a win because Kohlberg's never played in the NHL, and Vanek played for Montreal, and it was the best attempt that could be made at the time. So I have no problem with that one. And Devan Dubnyk was picked up by Montreal for future considerations from Nashville. What a world, eh? What a world. Devan Dubnyk, of course, would then leave for Minnesota, and the rest is history. But the moves made at the deadline that year, they're not bad moves. June 14th, 2014 was the next move. Louis LeBlanc goes to Anaheim for a 5th rounder. They got a 5th rounder for LeBlanc. That's more than I would give you for LeBlanc. Then they acquire P.A. Parenteau and a 2015 5th round pick on June 30th for Daniel Briere. And Briere, of course, at the end of his career, P.A. Parenteau, his career appears to be at an end right now. But between the two, I would say Parenteau was the better player even at that point. Buffalo acquired Josh Georges for a 2nd round pick from Montreal. Montreal misses Georges on the blue line in terms of his physicality, but I wouldn't say this was necessarily a loss. Pick up a draft pick for Georges on July 1st. It's not bad. October 5th, 2014, the Jets acquire Peter Budaj and Patrick Holland for Eric Tangradi. It's not a loss. I know some people are going to say, oh, well, Budaj. Well, why not? They didn't need Budaj. Budaj at the time was considered to be done in the NHL. The resurrection he had for his career last year in LA was nothing short of miraculous, and now he's a backup in Tampa. So, full marks to Budaj, but at the point when he was traded, he didn't have any market value. The Dallas Stars acquired Travis Moen for Sergei Gonchar on November 11th of 2014. Gonchar was an attempt by Bergevin to get the puck handling going, to get the special teams going, and Travis Moen being lost wasn't really a loss for Montreal. Two guys near the end of their careers, not a huge deal. Montreal acquired Brian Allen from Anaheim for Rene Bourque. That's a neither. That's just a whatever. February 24th, 2015, Devontae Smith-Pelly was picked up by Montreal for Yuri Seacatch. Is Seacatch an NHLer yet? Because I haven't seen it. I remember when Montreal traded Seacatch, and I saw some people online like, oh, I don't know what Montreal's doing. He has so much potential. No, he didn't. He really didn't. Devontae Smith-Pelly was a better player than he was. So I'll give Montreal the win on this one. Torrey Mitchell, acquired by Montreal from Buffalo for Jack Nevins and a 7th round pick. Mitchell's still on the team. So that's a win. Brian Flynn, acquired by the Montreal Canadiens for a 5th round pick. It's a 5th round pick. That's a minor risk, and it's a good move. Montreal Canadiens acquired Jeff Petrie for a 2nd round pick in 2015 and a conditional 5th round pick in 2015. Petrie's a good top 4 defenseman. Edmonton regretted trading him, much like they regretted losing Justin Schultz. I don't know what it is with Edmonton and defensemen coming back to haunt them, but that's a win for Montreal. Zach Kassian and a 5th rounder from Vancouver for Brandon Prust. I'll give that trade to Montreal. Prust didn't last very long in Vancouver. Kassian, even though he got traded later to Edmonton for a bag of pucks. I'll get into that trade in a minute. The fact that they got a draft pick back too, and Vancouver took Brandon Prust off their hands, that's a win. Christian Thomas acquired by Arizona for Lucas Lesio. That's just a saw-off. Zach Kassian goes to Edmonton for Ben Scrivens. That's a loss, but I understand why it happened when it did. Montreal was doing what you do, and you got a guy that you think is not the right guy for your team. And I'm being as nice about it as possible. Montreal acquires Max Freeberg from Anaheim for Dustin Tokarski. Tokarski was done in Montreal at that point, so that's not a loss either. Then there was the weird deal. January 15th, 2016. The NHL didn't want to see John Scott in the All-Star game, so they work out a deal where he goes to the Eastern Conference in a way of getting him off the All-Star team. It, of course, didn't work. Famously didn't work. Montreal picks up Victor Bartley as well. They apparently insisted on Bartley being a part of the deal. Bergevin was sold on Bartley. That didn't last. Bartley's not in their organization. And they gave up Jared Tenorti and Stefan Fournier. And Tenorti was just not going to be an NHLer. And that was always surprising to me and still is, really. Chicago acquires Dale Weiss and Thomas Fleischmann for Philip Deneau and a second-round pick in 2018. This is a win for Montreal. Deneau is a top 2 center in Montreal. Ideally, he'd be a third-line center. But the fact that you got that for Fleischmann and Weiss, that's fantastic. February 29th of 2016, Stéphane Matteau is acquired by Montreal for Devontae Smith-Pelly. Oh, Stéphane Matteau. This is a win for New Jersey. Although minorly, because Smith-Pelly didn't tear things up with Jersey, and Jersey didn't try to keep him either. So, there's that. Lars Eller was acquired by the Washington Capitals from Montreal for 2 second-round draft picks. That's not bad. Did they miss Eller down the middle? Probably. He's that ideal third-line center. But it's not something that cripples the team. You can't look at where Montreal is right now and say, oh, it's because they traded away with Lars Eller. Andrew Shaw is acquired by the Montreal Canadiens for 2 second-round picks from Chicago. So this is a mistake. And I will stand by this. And people are going to think, well, this is because you don't like Andrew Shaw. Touché. Everybody has a right to feel that way. I don't think Shaw works in Montreal. I think they already had Gallagher. Gallagher and Shaw, I don't understand having those two together. Shaw is a poor man's Gallagher. I don't think he has the offensive upside of Brendan Gallagher, and I don't think I'm talking out of school when I say it. I don't see him being worth 2 second-round draft picks. I really don't. And I've had people in the past say, oh, if he played on your team, you'd like him. Nah, I won't. And hopefully I never have to prove it, because I really don't want to see him on any team I cheer for. Shea Weber for PK Subban, June 29th, 2016. Back when my channel was getting going, this trade happened. And it was huge news. And it was when Hall for Larson happened. And it was like, what's going on in the NHL? And it was a day that just blew everybody away. This was a hockey trade, and it was a calculated risk taken by Bergevin. It has not worked out. Subban's looked fantastic in Nashville. But remember this. In Nashville, Subban doesn't have to be the man. They've got Yossi. They've got Ekholm. They've got Ellis when Ellis is healthy. They've got fantastic top 4. Montreal didn't. PK played too much. He played in situations that he just made too many mistakes in. And in Nashville, he's not the guy. Shea Weber has kind of wilted under that pressure in Montreal. He had a great first half last year. He wasn't tremendously good in the second half. And now he's slow out of the gate scoring-wise this year. And when you have a blue line that doesn't have offense, the loss of PK Subban really hurts. So, again, if we go back to the draft, they could have had Morgan Riley, Shea Theodore, and PK Subban on this blue line. Yeah, that's quite the blue line Montreal could have put together. Jonathan Racine for Tim Bozon is the next one, and that's just a non-trade, really. Bozon still hasn't made it. Racine never played. He ended up going to Tampa 2 months later for Nikita Nesterov, and they threw in a 6th-round draft pick as well. Nesterov never fit into Montreal, and while I liked the guy and I thought he was good, offensively, I guess Nesterov's shortcomings in his own end did in his career, because he's gone. February 21st, 2017, Keegan Lowe is acquired by Montreal for Philip Samuelsson. This is just a matchup of just a switch of guys. Jordy Ben's acquired from Montreal for Greg Pattern and his 4th-round draft pick in 2017. Montreal wins this draft. They got the better player. Ben's the better player. I'm still surprised that Dallas gave up Jordy Ben, because I like Jordy Ben. That's why every now and then I call Jamie Jordy, because I like Jordy Ben a lot. A lot of heart, good worker, and that trade doesn't bother me. David Desharnais was sold off at the deadline, near the deadline, February 28th, for Brandon Davidson. Davidson lost in terms of his status when he went to Montreal. I had always believed that Brandon Davidson was going to be a really solid defenseman and was slowly coming along. He hasn't distinguished himself in Montreal yet. Desharnais didn't play great in Edmonton. Now he's a Ranger. But if you're going to take whoever has the best player wins the trade, Montreal not keeping Desharnais and not finding a way to sign him, that may be part of the problem right now. Honestly. Sven Andrighetto traded to Colorado for Andreas Martinson. This is a huge loss. Andrighetto had a really good last 20 games of the season with Colorado. And coming into this season, I didn't project Andrighetto to do really well because when you see a guy perform really well after a trade in 15, 20 games, that's nice, but you want to see it over a longer period of time. Guess what? It looks like the Andrighetto fans were right. And Montreal made a major mistake because Andrighetto's been putting up points in Colorado, and Montreal needs those. So that's a loss. Dwight King acquired on March 1st for a 4th-round draft pick. Yeah, that's a win for LA, really. And I mean that. King that didn't work. Montreal Canadiens acquired Steve Ott on March 1st for a 6th-round draft pick from Detroit. Ott's retired, and his play in Montreal was not inspiring at all. I was never a Steve Ott fan, and I said on deadline day that Ott going to play with Shaw and Gallagher, just what a team that is. All they needed was Sean Avery to come out of retirement and play with them too. My God. Why didn't they get Burrows? They could have had the most aggravating team to play in NHL history. Tikkanen could have been brought in to coach them. And then the big one. A 6th-round pick and Jonathan Drouin for Michael Sergachev and a 2nd-round pick, conditional. The fact that the conditional draft picks favor Tampa makes this even more head-scratching. So it's a conditional 6th to Montreal for a conditional 2nd to Tampa. Why would Tampa get the better draft pick? Even conditional. Why? Sergachev is a damn good defenseman. I know Drouin is a top 6 forward for Montreal right now, but Sergachev is showing all the signs of being a star defenseman. I don't understand this one at all. Personally, this trade's a loss for Montreal. Not in the short term, but in the long term, it really is a huge, huge loss. Like PK. Nathan Beaulieu for a 3rd-round draft pick. I liked Nathan Beaulieu. I guess Montreal didn't. And, June 17th, they traded him out because they didn't want to have to protect him. And they didn't want to lose him for nothing. So they get a draft pick back. And, of course, this is all, jockeying for position for the expansion draft. David Schlemko for a 5th-round pick from Vegas on June 22nd. He's injured right now. It's too early to tell. But Schlemko for a 5th, that's, especially in 2019, that's a calculated risk. I'll give Montreal that one. But again, they lose Beaulieu. They lose Sergachev. They lose Subban. You look at their draft record. Bergevin, the weird part is he was a defenseman. Bergevin played over 1,000 games in the NHL as a defenseman. And yet, his evaluation on defensemen seems to be way off. And I'm not sure why that is. Kyle Bond acquired for Andreas Martinson. That's not a big deal. Martinson was the one they got for Andrighetto. So Andrighetto's turned into Kyle Bond. Oof. And Nicolas Deslauriers was acquired on October 4th for Zach Redmond. So there you go. There's the trading record of... And in general, I have to admit, it starts out okay, but a lot of these moves look panicky. A lot of these moves look like, okay, I've got a hole right here, I got to fill this now. Okay, we don't really like PK. All right, we'll just trade him out. And then the best deal that they found was Weber. Most GMs would look at Weber's contract, look at his age, look at PK's age, and say, you know what, we'll just eat this contract and make it work with PK. Bergevin didn't do that. And that is on him. And while I defended the trade at the time, I can't defend it now. And a lot of these trades are just reactionary. The last trade deadline, they didn't improve the team. And it's a team that needs to get bigger and more talented, and they stay small. and the top talent scoring wise just isn't there right now. And the potential is there with Galchenyuk, but he's clearly not happy. It's obvious Montreal's not happy with him. And if it's this bad, and it looks this bad early on, I don't know why he's still there. With all the other moves, and I mean, Bergevin makes a lot of moves. Why is he still there? Bergevin seems competent enough to stick around, but some of these trades are probably going to come back to haunt him. And his drafting record can come back to haunt him, because Montreal will not put up with having to go into a rebuild. No way. Not with the amount of money that they just signed Carey Price for. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about moves made that have been good or bad. And again, and I didn't even really get into the free agents that he's brought in, because we're already up to 26 minutes here. But I wanted to go through his drafting record and his trading record. Free agents. Yeah. It's gonna be a rough ride. Fine, I'll look at free agents for this year, and this was a team that won last year. That's the thing, they won last year. They didn't win in the playoffs, so they signed Hemsky, who's been a complete and total failure. They signed Streit, who they bought out after 2 games. They signed Alzner. Alzner's looked fine. Holland's in the minors. Freese is in the minors. Morrow's an extra, and Tormina. So a team that finishes 103 points, second in the East, first in the Atlantic. He didn't make the moves to make the team better, and it looks like it's really biting them because everything has gone against him. Anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. So let me know what you guys think. How long does he have? Is he going to stick around? Does he have till the end of the season? If Montreal keeps playing like this, is he gone by the end of November? Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. And if anybody's wondering, I would be very surprised if Marc Bergevin's the GM of Montreal come this time next year. I think he'll get till the end of the year, and if they don't make the playoffs, and if they look as lost as they've looked since the start of the year, and even though a lot of it's puck luck and they don't have a great shooting percentage, unless some of this starts to turn around, I don't think he makes it to the draft. I think they'll hire a new GM after the season's over, and they'll bring in a new GM to get ready for the draft. I would look for another French general manager. I don't know who. I think there'll be a lot of debate about whether or not Patrick Roy could be the next GM of Montreal, because they'll probably want to look to their glorious past, but be very, very careful about that, of course, because teams that look to their glorious past often, there's not a great track record with that. And I'll get into that in another video of some sort. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome, and I'll talk to you again soon.